I'm Keith Miller, your host. Today we're speaking with Susan Dramin-Weiss, an ASL instructor at Speech and Hearing Science. Susan is known for her innovative approach to online teaching, using technology and media to create courses that are both engaging and accessible. She sets a high standard in her classroom with thoughtful course design and a clear focus on student learning. In addition to teaching, Susan is deeply committed to supporting online students. She understands the challenges they face and provides the guidance they need to stay on track and succeed.
My name is Susan Dramin-Weiss. I'm a professor of speech and hearing science at the College of Applied Health Sciences, and I am an Illinois faculty member.
Join us as we learn more about Susan's approach to teaching and the impact she's making on student success. Welcome, Susan, to the podcast.
All right, we'll go ahead and get started then. Okay, so please introduce yourself, what your job is, and how long you've worked at the University of Illinois.
Sure thing. I'm Susan Dramin-Weiss. I'm a deaf individual, and let's see, do you want kind of my whole story? Well, okay, so I've worked at the University of Illinois as an ASL teacher, which is American Sign Language, I want to say for 30 years at this point. I worked part-time, and now I've been full-time since 1999, I guess. Wow, it's been a long time. But yeah, that's my role. I teach American Sign Language. Oh, and I was born deaf. And that's actually a family condition. It's hereditary. So my parents are both deaf, as well as my grandparents on both sides. So I am third generation deaf, and we probably have 20 deaf people in our family, maybe more. Some have passed, some are still living, but altogether, I think we've got about 20. That includes my brother, as well as some of my nieces and nephews. My husband is also a deaf individual. And to all of our surprise, our daughter was born hearing, but she still has deaf heart. She's learned sign language as her first language, and she's very immersed in the deaf culture. And so that's one of the things I love about teaching, is that I get to spread deaf culture and awareness, not just with my daughter, but with all my students. And then today we're here with an ASL interpreter, which is often how I communicate.
So thinking back to 1999, I believe you said, why did you originally choose to work at the University of Illinois?
Well, back at that time, I was teaching sign language classes over in Springfield. And so I was working there. We're from the area, and my mom asked if I wanted to be involved in teaching at a volunteer capacity for a little while, and then working as a deaf services advocate. And so I was always teaching on the side, as well as part of my role. And I was teaching in a high school for a little while, and working full-time, but then teaching kind of on the side and trying to do it all. And then I started teaching at Parkland College in the area. So I was teaching at Parkland Community College while still working part-time at U of I. And I was doing some research with deaf infants, working with the University of Illinois on a research project that was being conducted at that time. And one of the people in the department started asking pretty aggressively if I'd be interested in coming for a one-year temporary program. So I left Parkland with the plan for it to be just a one-year temporary situation, and I never went back.
Oh, that's awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah, they've really valued me here, and I love being here.
That's great. So how do you think your job relates to the overall mission at the university?
Well, I really see my role as a role model, as a member of the deaf community, showing what deaf people can accomplish, that we can do everything except hear, which is a common phrase in the community. And so I really want to make that message and that impression clear. I want the university and the students to understand more about deaf culture, what our needs are and what our values are. That's something I emphasize heavily in my classes, is that deafness is an invisible disability. People don't often understand that I'm deaf until they start talking to me. They see me and assume that I'm hearing. And when I try to explain to them that I'm deaf, there's always a moment. And so this isn't something that can be ignored, that deafness is an important part of the conversation. As for how U of I views me and my role, I think as a deaf individual, there's a lot of respect there and respect for my teaching and history, which I really appreciate and value.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So what do you thinking about your role here at the university? What are the most interesting or unique aspects? I know, are you hybrid or I guess how does that look? What are some unique aspects of your job?
Right now, I'm fully remote, and so all of my teaching is virtual. Before COVID, I taught in person at the university, and then during COVID and all the changes that happened there, I started transitioning to being a full-time virtual teacher.
So, do you have a day that you felt most proud to be an Illinois professional? Does one day stick out to you?
Uh, I've taught a lot of years, and it's exciting to see that some of my students have gone on to become interpreters or teachers of the deaf. And I feel like some of that was really because of me. They saw me as a deaf professional and person in their life, and they decided to kind of adjust their career path because of it. So that's always been something I'm really proud of, is those students who've gone on and pursued interpreting or deaf, becoming teachers of the deaf. I've also known some who are parents and couldn't communicate with deaf individuals. And so I've been able to work with with hearing parents of deaf children and help them communicate with their children more effectively and share a language, which has also been really exciting to see. I also remember there was one athletic event. So there was a sports game happening. And the music had started and they were doing, I don't know if it was the national anthem, but it was something before a sports game, and they had sign language. They had the entire song at the beginning of the game in ASL because they recognized that there were deaf fans in the audience coming to the game. And so they put sign language there as a way to make us feel welcome and included, which was a great feeling. And so I feel like some of that work that I've done teaching and spreading awareness of ASL and deaf culture has really gotten through. And that's exciting to see when people say, oh, they have questions like, can deaf people drive? And I always say, yes, we absolutely can. People are sometimes surprised to see that. They see me driving out around campus and people wave at me and they see that deaf people can drive and do everything else. Oh gosh, there's lots of stories like that, things that made me feel really proud of being part of this community, and good about the work I've done. Yeah. Yeah, really for me, it's spreading that message of deaf culture, deaf rights, showing that deaf people aren't dumb, that many of us like music. Um, we enjoy music with like vibrations or in other ways of experiencing the music. So sometimes you have to turn the music up for us to be able to enjoy it, but we do. Um, yeah, all those things.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And I've seen more ASL interpreters at concerts and other venues, speeches. It seems like it's more of a commonplace now. So that's wonderful to see. I'm moving on to the next question. I wanted to see how you use technology and media to enhance student learning in your courses.
So most of the time, I do everything in sign language. So it's all about seeing sign language. And so for us, technology really makes that possible in a lot of ways. I do use, PowerPoints, which I can then point to and reference. And pointing is a very ASL and deaf culture thing. So, I'll say, oh, tell this person, use kind of the direction to indicate. And so there's a lot of directionality and pointing and referencing that we can do when we can see each other. We work a lot with getting students up to speed, making videos of their own sign language, which they then submit for their assignments. And let's see, before COVID, honestly, I was not good with technology. I was really, really basic skills, and I could only do the most simple things. And then COVID hit, and we all had to figure it out. And so at first, it was the middle of the year. I just had to take a minute to catch my breath. I started asking all of the wonderful tech support people to help teach me how to use some of the options. But I feel like now I've gotten much better. I've gotten more comfortable with Zoom, with online options, with all of the recordings that I trade with my students. And I'm still learning. Yeah. Oh, I will also say that, I mean, deaf culture is so visual and we have to be able to see each other. So being able to see each other online is also great.
So
Yeah. Oh, and also, it's really great that we have the chat feature. That's something we use a lot. So I'll be signing, and if something isn't clear, we can use the chat feature instead of always saying, oh, slow down. We can use the chat to ask questions, to clarify. And that way people don't feel intimidated. I want my
yep.
students to learn, and it's great to, have different ways of communicating. And so sometimes I'm just signing along and kind of talking to myself, and I don't always notice if there's a request or something, but because we have so many different options like chat or something else, they can ask me to slow down, to repeat, to clarify, to change where my camera's positioned, all kinds of things that we can
Yeah.
do.
That's great. This kind of piggybacks off that last question previously. What do you think are some unique challenges and rewards of teaching online compared to in person? And I know you've already kind of hit on this just a little bit, but I'm curious.
Oh yeah, for sure. um when I'm teaching in person, it's great to be able to interact and socialize with the students. That's always a lot of fun. We all get together, can practice conversations. I can see everyone in the room. There's games to get everybody up and moving around, um, which is good. Online, we don't have some of that. We can't really interact in the same way. We can't get up and move around the room to partner up for conversations. So that's, I guess, one of the downsides, but one of the big positives for being online is that everyone can see what's there really clearly. They can record and upload all their videos. It's much easier to manage kind of the assignments. If someone forgets a sign or a vocabulary word, there's a lot more resources available to look it up. In person, they may not have that option. If there's a sign that they forget, looking it up in the moment can be harder. But online, that's a real positive for being online. You can check your resources, look things up. It's right there. Everything's much more available and accessible. In person, the options might be a little different if you forgot something. And in terms of attendance, when you're coming in person, it's a little hit or miss. But online, I feel like students the attendance is much better because they can take their computer wherever they are. If somebody gets sick, they can still, have internet and join class. And to be honest, there's been a lot of people who join class from trains, from hotel rooms, from wherever they are, and they pop on, they sign. In person, they may come late and say, "Oh, the train was late," but I don't always have the option to excuse those if they show up in person. But if they're online, I
Right.
can see their face. There's no hiding. If they turn their camera on, that is a big thing for deaf people. You have to have your camera on. I need to be able to see everyone's faces, their hands, everything. So the attendance thing is definitely different. I've also noticed that in person, when I'm teaching, students may have side conversations or text, kind of trying to be subtle about it under their desk, but I catch them. I can see it. The environment's really noisy and distracting. But online, I may not be able to know if there's other sound happening. Because remember, we have our sound off. They're supposed to have their sound off. So I tell them all, we're supposed to be muted, have our sound off. I'm like, this is a signing space. I'm a deaf person. We shouldn't need sound in this class. So they're all supposed to have their microphones muted. And if they start talking, that means I know they're talking to someone else in the room outside of class. They're distracted. And so it's visually a little bit easier for me to identify. Things are kind of different. But some of those social skills I do think we're missing from being in person. But I've also noticed, I think it's interesting that I feel like students have slightly better grades with an online class. I think it's maybe because they're paying attention more, maybe
Focus.
they're
Yeah.
more engaged in their homework, but in class they may be distracted, they may, forget. But yeah, the grades are better online.
That's wonderful. So it really, students can focus. It also provides a lot of flexibility for students to actually get on and attend the classes. That's wonderful. So my next question, okay, how do you see the future of online education evolving and what excites you most about it?
I think it really expands the opportunity for deaf teachers. I think that for me is the most exciting thing. Right now, there's just two of us, me and one other individual. So, let's see what else. Yeah, I hope we expand equity. I hope that it's more than just one or two. We've got students asking for more advanced ASL classes. more specialized, finger spelling and other techniques, getting their own
Yeah.
classes. And so setting up more courses will require more faculty. And so, we have deaf culture, we have finger spelling, we have other majors and tracks. We could do a whole course on classifiers. And so really expanding and going more in depth into the language and the culture, which I
Yeah.
think would be exciting if we could increase the pool of deaf teachers, which may happen because I may retire at some point. I've been teaching for 30 years, retirement's coming. So before I do, I'd love to see them expand the pool of deaf teachers for online classes. We used to have 3 teachers that taught all of ASL, and now we're down to 2. And yeah,
Wow.
I keep trucking along, but for a while I was by myself. Then we went back up from just me to having 2. And I think that with online teaching, it's so much easier for people to participate, to engage. Students can stay at home. People can come in from other states to teach. I think it's so much easier for those opportunities. Oh, but I know we're still looking because like Champaign has deaf events sometimes, and I'm asking around. But since I teach online, I actually live in Florida now. I moved down to Florida a couple of years ago. And so I'm trying to reach out to the Illinois deaf community and find out where there are deaf events. And so I can share those with my students and give them information about local community events that they can go to, which are extra credit opportunities for them. So I would really love to envision a future with more deaf events and the information about them being available online and coming from different people in the deaf community so that it's not all coming through me, that my students can access that. Sorry, I may have gone a little off topic there. So
No, you answered the question. That was great. And that's honestly so impressive for 2 individuals to take on the whole campus. That is, wow, that is so crazy. So I'm coming up on my last question here. What do you enjoy most about working with students?
oh gosh, there's so much. I think I really enjoy all of their stories, getting the story of their life. I love to watch them, make videos sharing their stories. We have kind of a role-playing section where I put them in groups and have them, I used to do that in person. It's a little harder online, but I would have students give reports on famous or well-known deaf celebrities that they've researched and give a presentation about. And I really enjoy watching them tell these stories about the deaf community that they've learned about. What else? I just enjoy teaching. I enjoy students. My students are patient with me. They're incredibly patient. Every once in a while you'll get one that's not as engaged, but I love teaching. I love seeing the change in attitude. The ones who come in that may not care so much at the beginning, that really get excited and interested by the end of the course. Teaching is a great job. The grades and the paperwork may not be my favorite part, but I love teaching. I love my students. I love seeing their expressions and their excitement as we get into the material. It's just the best.
Thank you. Thank you both. I really appreciate you being here, Susan.
All right, sounds
Awesome.
good. Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Illinois Professional. If you enjoyed this conversation and want to hear more stories from inspiring professionals and faculty across the campus, be sure to follow @IllinoisHR on Facebook, LinkedIn, and X. Stay connected for the latest updates, insights, and stories that highlight the people powering the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. Until next time, thanks for tuning in.